Hey, it's Jimmy Brenner, Canadian Tactical Officers Association, Copcast, and I have a guest with me today, Bruce Lewis, and he has something called BulletID, and he's going to explain it to us. When he explained it to me, I thought it was an amazing idea, and how it was not thought of earlier surprises me. But Bruce, I'm just going to let you run with it. So tell us about BulletID.
Okay, you came up with a comment why somebody else hasn't thought of it. Everywhere I go and I've been around the world with BulletID, everyone comes to me and say, why didn't someone think of it before? Well, that's a good question. They didn't. So I come by this honorably. You see what's happening in our cities and around the world every single day. There's shootings, not one, there's multiple shootings. Just last week, in our city of Toronto, at Yonge and Bloor, and on Leslieville, 3 people by stray bullets got shot, and no one has a clue what is happening. I have technology that when you see this shell case on the ground that the police have, you can actually pick up that blank shell case. It has a serialized laser-etched barcode on it. And from that barcode, you can tell you everything you want to know from your smartphone within 10 seconds anywhere in the world. It'll tell you who made it, how did it get there, who owns it, and everything else that you ever wanted to dream of. And it's technology that's not out there. We have patents in Europe and shortly in 130 countries in the rest of the world. And we're starting to call on ammunition manufacturers. We're starting to demonstrate it to politicians in various countries around the world. And that's where we are right today. In short, I've been through this. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in different businesses. I've had about 45 businesses, and they're mostly into the food service equipment business, which I understand real well. I'm a food service expert worldwide, but one of my businesses was not a food service one. It was a hobby that turned into a business. That business was called Gunmaster Corporation. And what was Gunmaster was a young kid. I was traveled the war surplus stores because I was very intrigued with it. So I go into this one war surplus store and I see this gun that folds up like the one that James Bond uses in one of his movies as a sniper, and it's called an AR-7. So I bought the gun. I took a look at it when I got home. On the carton, it said a company who manufactured it was Archaic Corporation in Costa Mesa, California. This is during the Vietnam War. So as an entrepreneur and experience in business, I thought this was phenomenal. And I have a history of learning all about firearms. We had a cottage up north, and I'll get back to Gunmaster. So I'll tell you a little bit of why I understand it. We had a cottage up in Lake Simcoe, and my parents liked to go there best off season, and we went during the peak season and again in the off season. In the off season, there was no one around, so my father bought me my first Daisy BB gun, like every other kid at that vintage.
This is true.
Used. So from a BB gun, then I graduated up to a Cooey single shot 22 caliber rifle. And from then I grew up to shooting all the types of guns. I became an avid skeet shooter, and I still am today. I belong to the Toronto International Gun and Pistol Club up in northern, just up on Highway 400, and that's how I understand how all these guns work and how it is. And I shoot every week, depending on the weather. And again, I'm a crack shot. So I was there when there was no such thing as an FAC, and you could walk around and buy guns off the street. I remember Hallam Sporting Goods, Nick's Sporting Goods, Stephen Francis, which had the most unbelievable gun shop at York Street, just south of Queen. And I remember Elmwood Ebbs and Giovanni's and Hercules Sporting Goods. They all sold firearms and no licenses, no nothing.
Well, in fact, the Timothy Eaton company had a gun store in the original Eaton's.
That's right. That was run by Jim Grant, who I became good friends with. I sold Jim Grant, showed him the AR-7. He freaked out about this gun, and we put it into the Eaton's catalog. I got a copy of the catalog. Guess what? We sold 5,000 guns. Can you imagine? So I asked Jim one day, what do they do with these 5,000 guns? He said, Bruce, let me tell you, they don't fire a shot. Okay, so what do they do with it? Well, it's like this. Every Saturday night there's a hockey game. They take out their bottles of beer, they take out this rifle, and they're watching hockey, and they take the gun apart, put it back together again, the game's over, they pulled up the gun, and it's there for another hockey night in Canada. It was unbelievable.
And it was a very unique firearm in that it was like a survival tool where the receiver attached and the barrel went into the butt of the gun.
Yeah.
And it was plastic and it floated. So it was actually, I think they were used as a pilot survival.
That's what the police tried to coerce me into saying instead of buying. They were against issuing. It was starting to get it. You needed a permit to get a sidearm. They didn't want to issue a permit, so they said, "Buy this AR-7. It's a 22."
You should look it up on the Google machine and get an image of it for those that are watching. If you're not familiar with it, because it is a very unique.
Well, I have it at home. I could have brought it to
well, maybe next time.
Yeah, for sure. But so little things turn to the right there. I'm selling all these AR-7s. I get a call from the police department. We're on our way. We have a cease and desist order. That gun that you're selling is illegal. So thank you very much. They delivered me this piece of paper. I called Jim Grant and I said to Jim Grant, what do I do? You know, you're in for thousands of guns here. He says, call the Jim Brown or at Brown Masters and Brown. Is a very well-known law firm. He's an expert on firearms. I called Brown and I explained, and Jim calls him, then I call him, and he said, bring me an AR-7 when you come down to see me. Well, I knew as soon as I'm going to bring him an AR-7, that's the end of the AR-7. So I take it down to Brown, and Brown takes a look at it. He says they're nuts. He picked up the phone and he phoned the Attorney General on Richmond Street. I think his name was Anderson or Aitchison. So I'm on the phone with him and he says, Bruce, bring me an AR-7. And you have a Bulldog 44? I said, yeah, that was Charter Arms, the company that gave me the distributors that they manufactured that pistol. Revolver. So I said, sure. I brought it down to him. I walk into his office. He's sitting there with a big howitzer on the desk. I knew I was in the right hands. He takes a look. Everything's great. He picks up the phone to the chief and he says, you're wrong when you say this is illegal. It is legal. And I'm telling you it's legal. He says, well, I won't go back on it. He says, well, I'm telling you now, I'm overruling that decision of yours. We will send the documents up via our own police car. You'll have it within an hour. There were no couriers in those days. There was nothing. So he sent it up, and that was fantastic. Going forward with that, and I get a call from the RCMP. I said, when does this all stop? They said, have all your invoices out for where you sold these AR-7s, and I hope they got the serial numbers. I said, well, no kidding. So they come in and show them the book. So I said to the officer, what's this all about? He said, well, we found a whole pile of AR-7s in Ireland. The IRA has them. I said, okay, that's good. What's it got to do with me? We just want to trace where we can find them. It's evidently that I sold them to a sporting goods store on Yonge Street called Nick's Sporting Goods. He's still there today after 50 or 60 years. And that's really basically the story of Gunmaster, which was one of my businesses. It was started off as a hobby, one of my most interested, and I'm still interested in that. And getting back to BulletID, I had an advantage over anybody else. I was involved with the Universal Code UPC code business at the very beginning. Loblaws were Ryan, who I just met, worked there on the same 6th floor that I lived with at 22 St. Clair Avenue East. He knows everybody that I know, and I know everybody that he knows. And we could spend a good week reminiscing who we know and quite intimately. And Loblaws was my first customer. I had the first barcode printer that there ever was. And furthermore, it went like wildfire. As soon as one put it in, they all put it in. It started off with a label, and the label wouldn't print. The ink smudged and nothing serious. It wouldn't read at the front end cash register. So I remember it was like yesterday, Galen Wesson's on the phone at 10 o'clock and it's giving me royal hell. You think this is going to work? I said, I know it's going to work. You think I knew it was going to work? And what am I going to tell them it's not going to work? You can have a heart attack right there. And then because this whole empire is up in flames. I said, it'll work. It did work. It worked successful everywhere else and everywhere else in the world. And challenge it today to show me a grocery store or supermarket which does not have that code. You can't.
Well, in fact, I'm checking out my own groceries now with the barcode.
Yeah,
so it works that well that even a civilian can use it.
Right, and it's all geared so people can't cheat. Like people say, well, they can put a different code on this and do this. Well, people have tried to take a code off a package of expensive product and switch it to something like a tenth of the product. It doesn't work. So
it's unique. I see it in a couple of different ways. I see it as a forensic tool. Yes. Obviously in criminal investigation where firearms have been used. I see it in that way, but I also see it in logistics. So I know you over a coffee, you told me a story about our troops in Afghanistan. Absolutely. And not knowing how much ammunition they had and it interfered with missions and this type of thing.
100%. So going forward in my business, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police found me, and I went to I introduced at a convention. I was the guest speaker, and they asked me to introduce Major General David Fraser. General Fraser, first time he heard what I invented, what I discovered, and he never left me for about 2.5 days. He says, this is unbelievable. He said, I just came off Afghanistan. I get a little emotional, but because we have the technology and it has to go out there in the world. It just has to. We cannot afford to have one day off without pushing it. So Fraser tells me the story. He first of all, it's he was notified there's 20 days left of ammunition. So he says, after the heart attack, which I recovered, he said, now, so somebody, he said, you just can't walk down the street and go to a Walmart or a Canadian Tire or an ammunition dealer and buy it. Someone's followed up at the headquarters and they didn't put the right information. And now I got thousands of troops and no ammunition. Now what do I do? Luckily, we found some in Sydney, Australia, if you can believe that. He said, but that's bad enough. Which is worse, he says, is we go into the Taliban territory and we see cases of American-made ammunition. So what is on that? The U.S. government gives on a foreign aid bill to loads of countries millions and millions of rounds of ammunition free, and they're supposed to use it for their own. But guess what? They're finding it to the Taliban.
Goes on the black market.
It's unbelievable. But with our technology, he says, I pick up one of the shells, I put my iPhone to it, and I can tell you that Jones Ammunition in Indiana manufacture it. Well, guess what? Jones Ammunition, you better start having how it's got there, because as of now, the rule, they should shut that person down. We're getting killed with our own ammunition. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous, and this has to stop. The same thing as I keep promoting it, and I see on the street every single day shootings in the United States, just not shootings, mass shootings. Every other day there's a mass. What do the politicians want to see anymore? What proof would they like to know? It's a simple idea. All you have to do is it costs you ammunition next to nothing to manufacture to put it in. Whatever. So we're on a track to make sure it happens. We're very close to one ammunition manufacturer. I think this will happen, and then it'll, just like the UPC code, into the world. As soon as one of us took it, they all took it, and they didn't have a choice.
Well, I know, in my experience, teaching firearms to law enforcement, it's always the round count. How many rounds do we have left? How many do we have today? How many did we issue? And if I could do that with my cell phone, it's so much easier than, because you'll have boxes of 500, but somebody's been in that boxes and there's, 2 boxes of 50 out of it. So when you have skids and skids of ammunition that you have to count, about 4 times a year, it's labor intensive, and it's not pleasant to do. And I think this is brilliant in that, again, if you're on a military range, you need a round count at the end of the day. And all I have to do is take a cell phone, and I can send that to HQ and the range control, and they know the round count for that day. So this is a great breakthrough. Again, as a forensic tool, but as a logistics tool as well, because again, we know we can track it to the point of manufacture, to the point of sale. It's just a brilliant idea.
Everywhere, and as you know, the U.S. government is scrapping over 100 million rounds a year because they don't know where that ammunition is. For example, you can't move ammunition in Saudi Arabia at 180 degrees into Germany at 10 degrees. It won't fire. And so instead of risking a soldier's life, which they will go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, they scrap it. So with our technology, we will tell them where it's been and how long it's been and the whole 9 yards. On top of it all the commanders and everything, especially a commander that came out of the Korean War, he was interviewed. They asked him, what was one of your worst nightmares out of this war? He said, I didn't know how much ammunition I had left. So it happened in 1950. It's happening as we speak right now. Something has to be done. We have to correct this, and we are going to correct it. With your help and Elsa's help and my associate here, Jack, we're going to have this all corrected. It's just a matter of time.
So there we have it. I'm trying to get the light on it. So that's BulletID. Canadian Tactical Officers Association, we endorse this. Again, I met Bruce about a week and a half ago over coffee, and I think it's brilliant. So Bruce, how can somebody get a hold of you if they're interested in this and they want to learn more about the technology, maybe adopting the technology? How do they go about that?
Well, we have you have my number. We have a website, and maybe Jack, you want to say a few words?
Jack's just off screen here, but we can hear you.
Well, the current website, excuse me, the current website is BulletID.net. Okay. It was an oversight not to incorporate the .ca and the .com immediately. That's being corrected now. And the website, it's a bit clumsy, but it'll give you some interesting videos and some anecdotes about some of the problems people have with serializing weapons. There's a terrible backlog of thousands upon tens of thousands of sheets of weapons that have been used in the committing of a crime, and you're not going to believe this. They're handled manually, one sheet at a time. There's no
I'm aware. I have some experience in this from the gun task force in Toronto Police, where I spent 35 years. And we actually went down to NYPD, and they were still logging firearms by hand. They were writing it like the old phone books. We don't have phone books anymore, yeah. But it was that thick in a big log book, and they would do everything by hand.
The banker boxes are
yes,
so plentiful, they're actually collapsing the floor, and their solution to that is to scan them and then put them in the computer. So you'll have the same manual search involved, but now you'll manually search paper by paper on a computer. It's quite a disaster, and a solution to that would be start fresh by not worrying so much about your problem with the guns, but overriding it simply by cataloging the ammunition. And the reason this really hasn't been done until now is because the technology to manage trillions and trillions of bits of information was never available before. So using the cloud technology, Google and Facebook does that. Yeah. Now using that with their patented software, you can actually access within seconds information that really currently is taking not hours, not days, but months and years.
Yeah.
So the answers are there, but it's so unbelievable that it's too good to be true. You can't really just say, we have an answer for your problem. And they're going, no way.
Well, we like to, humans seem to like to hold on to legacy pieces and historical, it's hard for us to come out of the past. We want to kind of hang on and not let go. And I think, and again, a lot of law enforcement agencies, that's part of the problem, is they're stuck in like 100-year-old technology.
That's exactly right.
And they just can't find the momentum.
Well, not only that,
to
the
pull
politicians don't want to hitch their wagon to something that's not guaranteed. So what we foresee happening, we've put this document of information in the hands of certain politicians, and what we feel they're waiting for is we already have a customer who's requested the serialized ammunition, and we're negotiating with the ammunition manufacturer to produce it. And they're going, how do we do that? We're going, okay, let's start from scratch. And once this gets revealed, the politicians are going to go, yes, yes, I believe in that. But they don't want to be up front. They want to follow in behind because there's no risk.
Correct. Yeah.
So we've got it figured out.
There's no Teddy Roosevelts left in the world.
It's really right now, you don't realize how close you are, really. In just a couple of months, you're going to be able to say you're on the cutting edge of a wave of change that's going to encompass the entire planet.
As Bruce, mentioned in the beginning, and if you just pick up the Toronto the Good, right? I mean, it's far from that now. So when you pick up the paper, or the paper, you open up the news on your computer every morning, there's probably 2 to 3 shootings, whether there's victims or not, in the city in a day, or in the GTA, at least.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to overinflate numbers here without the data in front of me, but we know it's a problem, and that tragedy in Leslieville, I can't think of a more tragic circumstance than that. So this, again, this is a great forensic tool. And Bruce, something you want to add there?
The more dramatic, which gets me, and I get emotional about it, is a 4-year-old girl playing in a playground at a birthday party gets shot by a stray bullet. Why is this happening? We have to stop this. What is more simpler when police arrive at a gun shooting. They pick up the cases. Well, they leave the cases on the ground. They put a yellow teepee by them. They take out their black book. They put in all the information. Then they gather them up and put them in the banker's boxes back at the precinct. They write a report on their computer. Well, all they have to do is take a picture with their phone. It tells you the exact address and the exact hour they're there, including latitude and longitude. And it tells you who owns that all the information you want to know about the bullet in 10 seconds. In 10 seconds, they're still trying to figure out what happened 5 months ago or 5 years ago. It's impossible. I don't know what you tell them.
No special training. Point and shoot.
You know, I think it's long overdue. I think it's a brilliant, solution and a forensic tool, and like I say, a logistical tool if you're on the other side of it. And you have to count ammunition and ship ammunition. It makes things so easy.
I don't want to sound scary, but way back when dynamite was the popular.
Yes, Mr. Nobel. Yes.
Well, they try to put tagnets into it where you could have ways of trying to identify gunpowder, and the word net's part of the word magnet. Well, sometimes would set off the gunpowder. So there was concerns. But the fact is, there was an interest because of the acts of terrorism.
100%. Yeah.
So what we're talking about is incredible. You're talking a single situation in the city streets. And on top of that now, we're also talking in the same breath, terrorism. You can solve both problems with the same technology. It's really, it's a lot to ingest. And don't forget, people say, well, aren't there fingerprints on these casings? They get so hot, the oils evaporate. So there's very
Yeah, it's the same with DNA as well. There's surfaces that are more, compatible with fingerprints and not so much with DNA, and then the opposite of that. Again, they do. There's chamber pressure. They do heat up. There are other things that are going to interfere with that technology, but I mean, this is so simple.
One concern that comes up repeatedly is someone saying, well, what if somebody is falsely accused of something? Well, the idea of this information is to exonerate. If someone says, I wasn't there, and they're saying, well, someone saw you at the scene, and then they check that there was a serialized cartridge, they go, you're right, it wasn't you. So it's not so much to accuse, it's more to exonerate. And for people who are afraid of too much information being out there, the exoneration part really should be more focused upon.
Well, that's actually an interesting point that you bring up, because a lot of young officers, they get upset, they get involved in an arrest, it goes to court, individual, they're acquitted for whatever reasons, the facts, the law, credibility, one of those three, they're released. But in reality, our courts in North America are set up so the burden of proof is on the prosecution. It's set up to defend the individual against the state. So what I tell young officers is you really shouldn't get upset, because that means your case in whatever way was not strong enough, and it's there. The courts are there, actually, again, in what you're mentioning here, is that you don't have to be concerned. This is going to exonerate you. It's the opposite of what you might think. So
I get a call one day from someone I don't know, Ron Tavner.
Well, that's a familiar name in policing circles.
Right, so he picks up the phone, he says, Bruce Lewis, yes, you're a genius. I said, well, thanks for the compliment. He says, in all my years of 70 years in policing, I've never seen you created the best technology ever. We really need this. I said, well, thanks for the compliment again, but who am I talking with? You're talking to Superintendent Ron Tavner. I said, oh, I know who you are. You're on TV all the time. He says, congratulations. And I've kept a relationship with Ron Tavner.
Yeah, he's quite a career in policing, and he's well known and well respected.
Yeah, but that's basically the whole story, and thank you very much for...
Well, I think what we'll do moving forward, we'll maybe link your website to Canadian Tactical Officers Association. That way we can connect people. Maybe if they can't find your site, they can find ours. and we'll
Yeah,
provide
excellent.
that link.
We're
As I said,
upgrading now, so
Great,
we're,
yeah.
we're going to be a little bit more proud of some of the easy access stuff.
yeah, so I appreciate you guys coming in today. Like I say, Canadian Tactical Officers Association endorses BulletID. And, when you have an opportunity, please look it up, get out there. I'm sure that they can set up a demonstration for you. And I think you'll be amazed at the simplicity. Sometimes the best solution is the simplest solution.
Absolutely.
And
it's
we
a simple idea.
Yeah, we try to complicate things, but this is just too easy. So, Bruce, Jack, thank you very much for coming in today. Jimmy Bremner, CTOA. Don't forget to check out Global Synergies, which is our new distribution company, and we're distributing everything from boots to armored vehicles. So if you need something, check that out. Again, Hudson Supply, Lambert, Less Lethal, all the people that support us, we appreciate very much. And that's Jimmy Bremner, Canadian Tactical Officers Association, Copcast, and I'm out.